Okay, I want to show, excuse me, a couple of things about the 1254 here. Excuse me, I acquired this a couple of months ago, and the reason why I got it, it was pretty cheap. I knew it needed work, and I knew that I could do it, or thought that I could. And so when I got it, I knew it needed parts. So my reason for getting it regardless was it's got the the high-low rear end, it's got the cast iron original engine, it's got a lot of good original parts. But the problem with the tractor from the get-go was it had a drive shaft. I had that idle a little too low. I had a drive shaft that was I'm not sure if damage is the right word, but so when I got this, there's a drive shaft that runs with two pulleys from here to the back, and I'll show those in a moment, but just trying to explain it from here. I'll show more details down there. So when I got it, there's a front bearing with a plate that goes across the front there that's missing. The nut that goes on there, and there's a pressure plate, and there's two pulleys attached to the drive shaft, and there's another pressure plate, and then there's another plate that mounts to the body that's spring loaded here. So basically what you've got is a clutch system or braking system down there that collapses on those two pulleys. So when I got that, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention there's also a throwout bearing down there. So when I got that, all those pieces that are sandwiched together, the two discs and the two pulleys are basically rusted together when I got it. And, well, there's a lot to that. But anyway, those pieces were rusted together. Then I had the plate after that, which is basically the second plate going across here, and then right after that there's a throwout bearing. So drive shaft goes back to here where there's two bolts, and there's a disc that mates to the rear end, and that disc was missing as well. So what I had in this drive system was missing all of the clutch parts. The throwout bearing stuff was all not good. So I went looking for this stuff, and I'm not able to find it yet in the last 2 months, and I don't plan on finding it soon. I think I'm going to have a donor tractor to actually get this back to original and working the same way. However, I decided that I'm going to make it run. I know I can make it work for now, and I just wanted to show people this modulation, or this, modulation. This I'm just basically changing the way this thing drives just a little bit in the way it brakes, because I need to make it work. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep that original drive shaft exactly the way it was, keep the frame, everything else exactly the way it was without interrupting anything, damaging it. That way if I do get the parts, I can go ahead and put them in. However, I wanted to build the pieces to get it working right now, which is what I've done. So I'm going to show those pieces right quick. But while I'm here, I was just going to quickly show a couple of things. This is the Bolens snowblower, and, oh, sorry, not snowblower, the blade, and it's really, really easy hookup. So right down here you've got a cotter pin, you pull that, push that pin in, same on the other side. Then you have this piece of linkage right here, this orange bar, connects here, connects back here. Now, I had this on the 600, I just put this on here today. That's really why I wanted to get this tractor running. Was it's cold October day and it's getting kind of crisp outside, so I wanted to get this ready for snow just in case. And what I really wanted this one for was the posi rear end where you can lock it out. I'll discuss more about the tires and stuff, but I wanted to basically lock it out there. So when I changed this blade here over to this one, well, let's go back a moment. So originally it was on the 750, and I believe that hole right there was the hole for the 750. I had to make that hole for the 600, and now this is back to the original hole on the 1254. So even though I have the same linkage bar for all three, these distances here are all three different. So 600, 750, and 1254. So it's just something I wanted to note for people to know, that these holes in here are not just holes just for the sake of it. They actually do adjust to different models. And I do interchange a lot of these parts and stuff here, especially that. I can put two different brush blades on here. I can do different stuff on this one. So most of the parts are interchangeable is what I'm saying. The second thing I'll note on this one right quick, I don't see a whole lot of information on these on the internet. I've got a Wisconsin engine, assuming it needs Tecumseh, but I'm not even sure. But it's actually a TRA-12D Wisconsin engine, and I don't see many references to that on YouTube. I've seen 10D and I've seen people review the 1254, but you don't see much about the engine. This engine runs excellent, actually. It just quit while it was running there because I've been trying to get the thing exactly figured out. What I've done is I've mocked everything up and run through it and tested it all, and it's worked great, but I wouldn't say I'm 100% ready. I've got a what I would call almost like a petcock valve on the back of this carburetor here. Right there, you can spin that there, and basically this is a little bit free moving, so I have to tighten this nut up occasionally. That's what I've noticed so far from using it the last couple days and just testing it out. So when I go to shut this down, in order to keep this fuel from leaking out of here, I've had to close this off. I'm sorry, that's not true. It doesn't leak out. What it does is it floods the engine. So when I go to start this, what I've been doing is I've been closing this off when I shut it down. Then when I go to start it, I'll open it up, and within about 15 seconds it's ready to go. I'll pull on this rope here and it starts on the first time. However, if I keep this open for a couple of minutes, it floods the engine. So if I'm not running it, I like to keep this closed. And when I go to start it, I just open it up 1.5 to 2 times and just set it right once it gets running. Other than that, I haven't had any major issues over here. Just went through everything, make sure it was all clean and functional, which it is. So back to tires right quick. I've got 6 sets of tires, so I've got this in red, I've got it in the white, I've got it in, sorry, I've got 2 yellows and 1 red pair. Sorry, I've got two yellow sets of AG tires. I've got the 750 with the skinny AG tires on it, and I've actually got chains for these, so these might, and the wheel weights, I might end up with those on the 1254 for snow, but I'll see how that goes. I don't know that I'm going to need them, but I do have those and chains that I can change out also. So those are the pair of red AGs that I have. And then I've got 2 sets of turf tires, a red one and a white one, that are 10.5 by 24 by 12. And yeah, so I also have the original 600 wheels, which are 6 inches wide. They are the original looking skinny turf tires. I actually have those in the back. I'm not using those right now because almost everything I have on it has AGs because I've been working them like crazy. So last note I'll make about that tire situation or wheels, whatever. This lockout here is a great, that's really why I wanted this. I had to free this up and I'll fix all the internal stuff on this. But this is working properly now. So much so that when I went to roll this into place, I know that you have to pull the pin over there to basically roll it anywhere. And I pulled the pin, went to push it backwards and it wouldn't roll. And I forgot to check that the lockout was actually engaged. So that doesn't allow the wheels to spin freely if you have the locked in, I guess is the right way to say that. So I had to undo that. I actually have the fenders for this. I have all the original mounting brackets. It all came with it, but what I've been doing is just kind of working on this and mocking it up to where I want to go with it. I'm going to actually have a drag bars and stuff on there eventually. I'm hoping to put hydraulics on this one actually, eventually. But yeah, so all that stuff in the back is just kind of junk right now, just I'm mocking it up. So let's go to the actual modifications that I made. First off, I just put 2 brand new belts on it just within the last hour or so. So I started off with 1 belt to try out the system, and it worked great for a couple days. So I just now put 2 belts on it, and I'm only expecting it to work better than it did already, or just have a more secure drive system. So that's really most of it, what I've done Bolens wise lately. One thing I will say is these steering wheels have a real tendency to crack around all these areas. I've actually epoxied these and it doesn't look great, but I'm going to end up putting leather on it probably anyway. But this epoxy worked really good to get this back. I mean, it wasn't falling apart, but it was obviously headed the wrong direction as far as cracks and stuff go. This really stopped the cracks and made it solid one piece again where it's really strong. So I would suggest anybody that has those cracks in there, this is not JB Well. I believe this is a product called HYSOL, Hysol, made by 3M. It's a 2-part epoxy, and that's what I've got on there. That works really well. I've actually done that to the 750 also, and that has definitely shored up that steering wheel as well. I've only got a couple here in this area, but that stuff is really nice. It's really finishable. I don't think it's paintable. I'm not sure about that, but as far as functionality, that stuff worked really well to stop the steering wheel cracking and going the wrong direction. Okay, so let's get down to the bones of the matter. So real quickly, I had to do a couple things in building pieces, and it's going to be hard to see these things, of course, because we're underneath, but directly ahead I had to make that aluminum disc there, which actually has washers. Basically what I had to do was I had to not only make that, but I had to make sure that that was pushing the drive shaft forward or backward the right amount. So I actually had to washer that a couple times to get the pulleys in the front in the correct position. But that's basically a 3 3/4 inch piece of aluminum that I built. Those are 1 inch radius on each of those bolts. So basically those bolts are 2 inches apart there and 2 inches apart there. So I took a 3 3/4 inch disc, got a file around the outside. My intention for that is that's going to be the brake like my 600 and 750 have. So that's an important part in the future. I can either do that or I can actually put on the brake drum that they actually have that goes on there. There's actually room in there with the washers that I put in there. I can actually put the brake drum on there, and then I can go back to like the 600 or 750 style brakes. Now the reason I need to do that is because I've disabled this area up in here, which like I said, that's the clutch, the throwout bearing, blah, blah, blah. So this throwout bearing is actually right here. You can see the little pin on it. That's rusted to the drive shaft. This clutch, these belts, these pulleys are all rusted to the drive shaft as it is. I didn't plan on being able to fix that. I'm planning on having to get a new one. So that throwout bearing spins with the drive shaft all the time. So I'm basically, from here back, I'm pretty free until I had to make that piece in the back. Now moving up to the front, you can start to see where I had to start making more modifications. Make more pieces. So up front, let's see if I can get a good angle on that. So up front, right over there, there's a pillow block. You can see the pillow block. Now that pillow block, the axle is perfectly positioned to the original. And I did that by using my other two Bolens as an example of where it's actually supposed to be at. Then what I did was I took a piece of 12-inch aluminum C-channel with 3/8-inch legs on it and bolted it to the original bolts on the frame where the pieces would normally mount. And then I put a piece of 1.5-inch square aluminum tubing with 1/4-inch walls, and then I put a pillow block on top of that. But if you look closely, there's actually 5 shims between that aluminum and the pillow block to get it positioned correctly. I have some really thin, nice machine shims in there. Now another thing I did that you'll notice is on the far side of the pillow block, you'll notice that it's at an angle there. It's not straight across the tractor. That pillow block has a collar on it with set screws, so it's a self-aligning pillow block bearing. I offset that just a little bit of an angle because it gives you a little bit more stability front to back. It gives you a little bit of strength. So that bearing is always going to self-align. I actually twisted the front support just a little bit just to give it, just so that bearing is not standing straight up and down, and that's its only forces. I mean, I guess it could be toppled over, essentially. I'm not counting on that happening, but that was my purpose in actually doing just a little bit of an angle there, was to give it some front to back support. As you can see, I don't have the nut on the front of that shaft like they do. However, like I said, that particular bearing has a collar and set screws on it to hold it in position. So that's what I had to do down there. And I would kind of say that's all I had to do to make this work down there, is to build this bracket and put a pillow block down there. That's the short end of the answer. Now, what I did was, by doing that, was I eliminated the brakes, which means I have to go back to the back and use the 600/750 system for braking back here. I need a brake on my axle. It's not a problem at this point, but I do need one. Another thing I did was I went back to 750 or 600 style clutch disengagement, So I added this piece of aluminum, and I need to build this piece of linkage from here to here. The good news is I already have 2 of them on my other tractors, so I can just copy them. But what I did for this moment to check everything out was I added that piece of aluminum onto the existing idler pulley that's just on a spring. I basically put that lever on there to throw out that front bearing so it disengages the belt and gets me back to a neutral. And then I just extended this out to here. I'm going to have to make a piece of metal linkage there, but for right now I've just got nylon zip ties just to try it out, and it has worked perfectly. So again, I went back to the 600/750 system by making this piece and then doing a linkage here. That's not normal on a 1254. Last but not least, the last thing I had to do is just do this right quickly. So when I got this, this obviously has this pulley cover that's supposed to go on it, but that pulley cover is really made for the front two pulleys, which are actually the PTO pulleys. I don't have anything to hold these belts on, so I ended up adding these two pieces of aluminum and just screwing them down to the battery plate down here. And again, this is temporary, but this is something I had to do to make sure that these belts stayed on when you go to hit this clutch pedal and you disengage the clutch or that pulley down there. These belts are going to want to fly off of there pretty quickly. So I had to do these two plates up here. So it is possible, if you have a drive shaft that's locked up and rusted and not in good condition, it is possible to make these work without the proper system. Right now, these are actually machine screws. These are 1/4-20s or 5/16, I think. These are actually mounted to that back plate that goes across there like it's supposed to be. These two screws here, and then these two bolts are the original bolts that are supposed to go to the front. I just use the same holes, and this plate is actually in there. It's doing nothing, but it's there, so it keeps everything kind of in order. Other than that, I don't think I've had to do anything else to it. You can see almost everything I added is like a shiny aluminum, a brand new aluminum. There's that linkage to the outside to the foot pedal to disengage that. I've got this set here and this set here just outside of these belts. Those are aluminum 3/16 bar, I believe. And that's about it. So it is possible to make these run without those parts down there in the clutch that seem to be a regular issue for people. They seem to lock up and get rusted together and be an issue in finding parts. So this is what I'm going to do for this winter, I guess, until parts come around or I get a donor tractor or something. But I thought I'd show a video on how you can actually make these work without all the right parts. That's another great thing about these, is not only are the parts interchangeable, I'm able to actually manufacture some of the parts to make it work with aluminum. I don't plan on these lasting forever, but they're pretty much permanent until they need to be changed or I find an issue, which I haven't had yet. I did put lock nuts on everything just to make sure they didn't rattle off. That's about it. So you did hear the engine running. I was going to show that, but you did hear the engine running. I'm not going to go through that again. It is set up for the generator. However, I have not perfected the generator issue yet. I think I need to rebuild two of these generators at this point. I have not gotten any of my three to actually work with these generators yet. That's just a lack of time or effort, I would say. My 750 actually has been repowered, so that thing runs and starts all the time differently than the other two. That one's got a more updated engine. This 750 has been a workhorse lately. I can't tell you how many tons of trees and brush and stuff it's been hauling around lately, but the thing's been a workhorse. It's been extremely consistent, reliable every time, keeps the battery charged. Haven't had any issues with that whatsoever. I haven't really changed much. I think maybe new, I don't know, since the last video, but definitely put the leather on here. Probably going to do a little bit more along there, but put the leather there and on the seat. I've got a leather coming over here for this, the steering wheel. That's about it in the Bolens, but my main point here was just showing the drive system If you have any questions on how to do what I did, I think I've explained most of it, but if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.